source is more mysterious than science is able to define.
There is a belief that goes way back in Judaism that Hebrew is a sacred language. That's strange to many Christians because Christianity doesn't have a sacred tongue, although Islam does. The way many Muslims feel about the Quran and the language of the Quran parallels the way Jews have traditionally felt about the Hebrew Bible. And Hebrew, being the sacred tongue, it is assumed is invested with ultimate significance, and every letter has many, many meanings.
Orthodox believers see the essence of the divine in the language, that the words used for writing the books of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy were supernaturally imparted to Moses by God, and are therefore sacred.
Now these are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments, which the Lord your God commanded to teach you, that ye might do them in the land whither ye go, to possess it. Deuteronomy 6:1.
There are exactly 613 precepts or laws within the 5 books of Moses. 248 of them are positive laws, such as the commandment requiring that the sanctity of the Sabbath be observed. 365 of them are negative restrictions, as those which prohibit theft, adultery, and murder. Symbolically, there are precisely 248 columns of text in the Torah, and there are 365 days in a year, making the Holy Scroll rich in allegory. In fashioning a new Torah, it must be written very specifically.
It must be written as Moses had written it, only in Hebrew, and in the same way that he wrote it, with the columns of letters, so that you have eventually the number of columns that come together with the days of the year that make up all the commandments, the 613 commandments which are in the Torah. So 248 columns, 365 days, the two together become 613, which are the number of commandments which are in the Torah.
To the Jewish mystics of old, there was another mysterious depth to the Torah. The structure of the text was an attempt to symbolize the divine in man. Its 248 columns were believed to relate to the number of component parts that make up the human skeleton, and the 365 negative laws symbolize the number of main nerves and blood vessels in the human body.
There is also belief that all of the Torah is one long name of God. And that belief actually becomes more intriguing if you look at ancient manuscripts of the Torah, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, because you see that when people first wrote scrolls like the Torah, they made no separation between paragraphs, between sentences, or even between words. And so it looks like one long run-on word from beginning to end. And we human beings have to break it up in order to understand the individual words. But if we could put it all together somehow, this mystical teaching tells us, it would read as one long name of God.
For at least 1,000 years, the mystic view has caused a wellspring of questions and interpretations to flourish around the topic of who may originally have written the texts. Much of the debate was centered on the alphabet and language itself.
When a Jewish mystic looks at the Bible, he or she doesn't look at the same narrative as an ordinary reader does. It looks for tiny signs in the use of language, the way the letters appear, in order to understand what is the level of existence beneath this. And so we're always looking for strange phrases or the way the letters are used, sometimes even the shapes of the letters, to give us clues, to give us intimations of what lies behind. And when we do, we discover the most incredible riches.
The mystics believed that the Hebrew letters were designed by God himself, and that if those letters were fully studied and understood, they could be used for the spiritual upliftment of mankind.
Each letter, the shape of each letter, channels a very specific dimension of energy, which we also refer to as consciousness. Consciousness of the light force of God. What these Hebrew letters can do for us, and that is what the entire revelation on Mount Sinai was about, is to provide us with the tools by which we can structure a future devoid of chaos, pain, and suffering. The future can be shaped, formed by the individual if he understood, if he was taught how to make use of these configurations of different letters and different words.
When you read the Bible, you see that the rabbis come up with interpretations that seem very far from the text. They do that because the assumption is God isn't redundant. And if God is in that text, every letter, every word, every mark on the page has many, many, many different significances.
There are no numbers in Hebrew. Letters are used instead. So each letter of the alphabet is associated with a numerical value.
Aleph, the first letter, is 1. Hey, the fifth letter, is 5. Kuf is 100, and on and on. And when you read a word, you're also reading a number. So there is a practice called gematria, where you count up the numbers of different words and see how they correspond to the numbers of other words. It becomes very intricate, very interesting, and to many, profoundly significant.
These numbers, when letters, words, add up to a particular number, and other names will add up to that name and number, indicating to us that they have something in common.
The numerical value of the letters in the word God and the word nature, for example, both total the same amount, indicating that the two words essentially carry similar meaning. The numerical value of the word love and the word one both add up to the same, indicating that to love implies becoming one with God. But for most people, numerology merely served to deepen the exquisite mystery of the origins and ancient use of the language. It is a field which has now attracted the scientist. Many researchers, working independently of one another, claim to have unlocked an extraordinary range of secret words, hidden messages, and concealed information embedded within the text. Using the computer to search for repeating patterns of letters, some claim to have found entire phrases and prophecies foreshadowing events such as the Second World War, the Holocaust, and even the outbreak of modern diseases such as AIDS. The mystery of who was responsible for writing the first chapters of the Bible may never be fully resolved. Perhaps the mystic course or evaluation by science are only two of the many pathways into the hidden depths of the Hebrew Bible.
The most interesting claim that Jewish mysticism makes is that the Torah is really about the psychology, although they don't use that word, of God. And the drama of Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and Jacob and Leah and Rachel and all of the characters in the Torah is really the drama of the internal workings of God as God creates and cares for the universe. So when you read the Bible, what you're really doing is reading it on one level as history, on another level as human spiritual guidance, and on a third and deepest level as an insight into the very nature of the creator of the universe.
Because so much of its origin is hidden in obscurity, the Torah has been the cause of much controversial debate.
Something like 25% of the words in the Hebrew Bible are of disputed meaning. There's no way that we're ever going to know all the facts regarding the entire environment in which the Bible was composed. We're never going to know everything about the Bible. The Bible, perhaps, is one of the permanent mysteries of mankind, and perhaps that's